Hey, this is Matt Light, and you are listening to Poor Man's Podcast. Actually, nobody's listening to this.
Welcome back. We are here at 565 Live in Bellevue with guest Eric McKenna. Eric, thank you for taking the time to join us. I'm very excited to have you on tonight. Everyone has had great things to say about you.
Oh, God. They're all lying.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the last few weeks I've had... Actually, it's been the last week. As soon as I put your name on there with the picture and posted it on there, I've had a ton of people, former guests that have come on and like, oh, you're gonna love it.
Oh, I'm humbled. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. So for everybody listening, can you give us a little bit background about yourself? You're a podcaster. You just started a radio show in Beaver. I'll let you touch on that.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll let you give some background, and then I'll ask you. I have a million questions. I'm
right.
so excited.
Okay, man. Yeah. Probably the 60-second tour. Lifetime Pittsburgh resident. Grew up in Coriopolis. Somehow made my way back there later in life. My wife and I did. Nothing really special, just, Robert Moore's flunk out. Meandered my way through sales. I started a guitar company very haphazardly in the late 90s when the internet was young. It somehow grabbed legs, and I got very, very fortunate. The name of the company was Boogie Street Guitars. We carried that all the way to 2014. Very blessed to work with rock stars that I had put their posters on my walls at shop. Just nutty times, good times.
I've seen all the work you done with Paul Stanley, right?
Yeah, that was probably my biggest fish in there. Yeah.
That rock legend.
Yeah, he was my childhood hero. I mean, that's the ironic part about the whole serendipitous nature of what happened to me. But and it ran its course around 2014. I was kind of a little bit too young at that time to retire.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out what the next thing was, but I just could not go back to a desk job.
Yeah.
I'm unmanageable.
Yeah.
I got very fortunate again, and I tried real estate, and it just stuck. Being a realtor just suited me, so I've been doing that since 2013-14. Just having a blast. And then the podcast came around in 2019 after doing a radio real estate show for a couple of years on WBVP down in Beaver County. Loved it. Wasn't too crazy about the commercials and all that stuff. I was very anti-commercial, but it served its purpose. The podcast was fascinating based upon what I was ingesting, like Rogan and some of the others. I love the long-form conversation, the deep dive, so to speak. I looked around town in Pittsburgh here, and there was a lot of podcasts, a lot of really good ones. And I said, but it's not really what I want. I want a relaxed, video, polished talk show.
Yeah.
If the audio portion becomes a podcast, cool. I didn't want to go from a commercial bank. Can I actually self-fund this thing and just do it for myself and see if anyone else cares? I figured we'd do it for a couple months, and it just kind of, here we are, 3 years later, it's still going.
I know just from seeing the pictures and watching some of them, it looks great. The product you put out there is
definitely having a lot of fun. Way more fun than I even thought that I was going to. It's kind of enriched, not getting too esoteric. It just really, I met a lot of amazing people through the journey. People that probably were outside of my sphere anyways, if I hadn't done the show. And it's kind of like, it took all the great things about the radio show I had and left out all the shit, like all the, the commercial breaks and the reads and all that nonsense. So being able to customize it. Now, I'm back on radio again, so I guess I got to kind of do that. A good friend of mine, Rocco Koza, entertainment attorney here in Pittsburgh and business attorney. We're doing a show called the Entrepreneurial Life.
Right.
Just talking about not so much once you decide to do it, but the process of leading up, deciding whether or not you should take that road. Should you consider leaving the 9-to-5, leaving an employee environment and taking that leap? And then we're kind of trying to vet out those questions and concerns and kind of bounce that around. So it's added a little more complexity to my life, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that just started this past Saturday, right?
Yeah, we did our first show this past Saturday.
And how did that go?
It was great. It was like riding a bike. My last show there was in December of 19, right before the world went to so for me, it was like riding a bike. Rocco is such an accomplished speaker and author, and he gave a TEDx talk. I mean, this guy's very accomplished. But again, put somebody on live radio. Yeah, it's a little different. So I think it was an eye opener for him. But we had a great time, and I'm looking forward. The show's gonna be a lot of fun.
That is one of the things, and like you were saying, you were asking about if we were doing live here or just recording, and we started doing the live thing, and that's Maybe it's a blessing and a curse. I forget that we're live immediately.
Listen, I don't even think about it.
Yeah, I don't think about it at
It's
all.
just you and me talking. I'm like, people are listening, I guess, but I don't. It's not at the
That's the
forefront.
beauty of this format.
Yeah.
If you do it right, it's you come across conversational.
That's what I love, and that's what I love in like listening to a podcast. Is I like those long form, have a conversation, like the deep dive. Like, tell me, when I tell a story, for better or for worse, I give like way too much background.
Yeah.
Because you need to know all the dynamics for the story to really tell, and I can't do that in 5 minutes.
He was wearing a yellow shirt on
and you have to
January 2nd
Yeah.
at 7:32.
But everything seems important, and I'm telling the story. Then I'm like, well, you have to understand this and this, and that's what I like about this is it gives you the opportunity to have a deep conversation and get somewhere without. Because if you listen to a lot of stuff on like, say like a normal radio thing, if they have like the 7-minute increments or whatever the small bites
It's
are,
tough.
it's hard to get there, get them interested, ask the question, and then have a back and forth. When you have an hour or something, or however long you want to go, however long the conversation goes, it's free and you can get into whatever. And really, that's when you kind of uncover things that are more interesting than just like the surface things people normally talk about.
100%. Yeah, I think people are just starving for conversation in general. Because when I started, I had some trepidations like, well, is anyone going to get help?
Yeah. For sure.
Who's going to be on here? What areas am I going to tackle? The biggest thing was, do people really want to buy into a conversation that long?
Yeah.
But the reality is, if podcasting, especially Rogan, and I point to him because he was the first to put it on video and get A-listers, and guests, but it did prove that there's a thirst for more than a soundbite. See, we are the anti-soundbite. That's the name. That's the moniker for my show because I just, we talk in little bits at each other all day long. It's a text message. We're buried into our phones. And see, I come from a different generation where, we used to sit down on a couch in a coffee table in a bar. We used to sit down and enjoy media together. We used to enjoy conversations where, for me, to look at how life is now, we're just talking at each other.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of my gig is just to slow it down, take a breath, and really vet out and enjoy the conversation. If one person listens to it, I'm fantastic.
Yeah.
If you get a couple thousand, I'm even more flattered. But it really is about slowing the process down and really getting people to relax and do what we used to do, and that was talk to each other.
Yeah.
Not at each other, talk with each other. And I think that's the essence of what I'm trying to do with the project.
I love that, and that's like I was just saying, that's what I like to listen to, and that's what kind of we would like to do, is to get into that deeper thing. And I think just the way society is going so much is the instant gratification, the TikTok thing of what can you get for me in 15 seconds, what can you get for me in a minute, and there's just no substance to it for me. And like I get the people that are into it, but for me, for what I do, I don't feel like there's any substance to that. So that's why I like doing that. There's a place for it. If you can do that, then good for you, man.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's not the place for me as much.
There's a place for everything.
Yeah, for
Everything
sure.
has a niche. It's just that I think this is proof that, I think we've been conditioned to ingest everything in short spurts.
Yeah.
News headlines, all that nonsense. It isn't that we really want it that way.
Yeah.
I think that's just the way society has pushed us. And like I said, I'm just trying to break the norm and get down. And even I speak faster than I should. I should also heed my own lesson here in that I should slow myself even down more than I do. But the idea really is to have that comfortable conversation. At times can be uncomfortable, but through all of that, there's a beauty.
Yeah.
And I'm astounded at the amount of people that come into the show, how long they stay. It's really puzzling, flattering, humbling, and really at times odd.
Yeah.
Because I don't have an explanation of what's going on out there that's causing this.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love that more people are ingesting deeper, longer, relaxed conversations.
That's always a compliment, like for us, especially for me, when we have somebody on and they're like, yeah, no, definitely, we'll stay on for another 10 minutes, or let's keep talking. Oh, we didn't even realize we were talking for an hour.
Yeah,
whatever.
100%.
Stuff like that.
If you're
like,
gonna do it right.
Yeah.
It's got to be an honest exchange, and authenticity is big for me. And I don't think a person can be your guest if they don't have enough time to really, truly be themselves in a relaxed fashion.
Yeah.
And the only way you do that is through conversation. I've done plenty of guest spots on radio and things like that. And we got 3 minutes, we got 5 minutes, we got 7 minutes. You know, you really can't get anything close to
It puts
a
so
deep
much
dive
pressure on
anything.
that, and like, I feel it's just
I just don't like. I mean, I'm back on radio, but we structured the show there where we're getting blocks of like 12 minutes and 22 minutes. So we had these
That's
long
huge.
blocks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
pushed all the commercials that were required into like other blocks, so they weren't so sporadic.
Yeah.
Because you just can't do it effectively if you cannot engage that audience.
Yeah.
You know, we're not giving sports headlines here. We're not giving the weather. We're not giving them little bits of useful information. This is more about a subject matter.
Yeah.
And you can't talk about a subject matter in sound bites because then you end up with CNN or Fox News, and I have no interest in being associated with any of that garbage.
Do you think that going forward it'll be more like for radio, it'll be more of the short clips, just what can you give me real quick, or do you think it'll come kind of go back the opposite direction where it's longer form?
Yeah. Do you mean in terms of like what I see in like where radio's going?
Just the way radio is going forward, because I feel like we're just moving in a way where it's like, give me as much as I can, as fast as I can.
Yeah, and we've kind of conditioned ourselves to want to ingest our information that way, and shame on us. But I think there's a yearning, there's a thirst to get more in a different format and to have a conversation. The sad part about this, you know, and this is a comedy podcast, right? I'm probably the least funny person you're ever fucking gonna have on this show.
Oh, we say it's a comedy podcast. Because we make jokes. I want to just talk to people.
Well, ultimately, the sad part commentary, or the sad commentary of why this is successful is this is proving that the public is thirsting so badly for real conversation that they're willing to go listen to other people have conversations and eavesdrop in on their conversations because they're either they don't know how to do that themselves, or they are uncomfortable doing it themselves, or I don't know, maybe they're too lazy to do it. Maybe the devices has conditioned us. I don't know what the thing is, but if you really look at it, it's a little dystopian. It's a little sad. Think about the fact that we have to go watch other people have conversations. Like there's a thing where kids are opening presents on YouTube or some bullshit like that.
I'm aware.
And like, I just, the old guy in the room just learned about it. I learned about it from a buddy of mine.
I have a 5 and a 6-year-old.
Well, there you go.
So I learned the hard way.
I had to be told this 7 times before I really could understand that kids were opening presents and the parents, I guess, were videotaping them and then making a ton of money.
Millions of dollars.
If you want to be really pissed off, just search for like the net worth of any YouTube star.
Well,
Fucking. Don't get me started,
but
bro.
honestly, I'm a capitalist, so I'm okay with that.
Oh no, I'm cool with it. But if you just want to,
Not for something that fucking stupid.
Well,
hey, if they pay for it, they give it. I don't know.
pretty
I'm not
stupid.
get it, but that's like that.
But what that really
man.
says more
People are
is
dumb.
it's more a reflection on the actual society who would actually
on the consumer.
would actually
watching.
sit and consume that. Where again, there's a portion of our society, I believe, that is more interested in watching other people live their lives in activity, conversation, anything, than they are interested in living their own life.
Yeah, you see that with all the Real Housewives, the Kardashians, any reality show. I mean, even the Osbournes, the old school ones.
Yeah.
Like, it's let me live through vicariously through them.
You actually believe reality show is a thing?
I don't believe it's a thing. I believe it's let's put this on so we can get as many eyeballs on, and that if that's what we call reality, then it's reality.
Yeah.
For the sake of
definition. Yeah, I had a conversation. We were talking off camera earlier about the guitar stuff. Had a conversation, rather introspective conversation, a decade ago with Paul Stanley, and he was making a comment about that Gene Simmons had a
The Family Jewels
show.
Yeah.
And I had made an off-the-cuff comment about that show because I guess at that time Paul had not appeared on that show. And he was walking around the dressing room with his wine, and he said, "Eric," he goes, "there's 2 things in life. There's reality, there's television.
Yeah.
There's reality, and there's television. Don't mix the 2."
Yeah.
Then a month later, he appears on the show.
He's cool with that.
Yeah, but I mean, like his whole commentary was that all of it 100% was scripted. Maybe it was scripted. Maybe there was some off the cuff stuff that came out that they kept on.
Yeah.
But every plot line, every storyline, everything was, and there was multi takes. It was like a process show.
The thing that throws me off with, like you were saying, with reality, and I use that term, loosely, is like like I love MasterChef, even stuff like that. You see like the surprise in their home. How'd the camera guy get in their house for the surprise shot?
Yeah.
Like obviously it's all
it's all
scripted
scripted.
like that. And even like the stuff that is like they make it like if you want to get it on camera, you have to have a camera guy there. That's not just like there. Like that's all
But
like
we
that.
keep
It's all
ingesting it, and
produced.
I can't believe that the public is that gullible and that stupid.
Well, maybe
We
they
gotta
want to be
smarter
because
than
it's
that.
safe.
We have to be smarter than that.
But it's comfortable. Maybe it's the status quo. It's what they're used to. If you question it, then that's
the
when it
comfort
gets scary.
food of television.
Yeah, it
I
is.
don't know. It's rubbish to me.
Yeah. Well, how did you? You were just talking about Paul Stanley. How did you get kind of hooked up with that? How do you get? Do you have background in music, and how did you get hooked up with starting guitars?
The guitar thing happened in late '90s for me.
Yeah.
And I started just buying and selling guitars. The true story was that I started to really take guitar seriously therapeutically. I had lost a sibling, and my life was a little bit in turmoil, so I started playing a lot. And I went out and, bought a couple guitars. Didn't share that information with my wife. And I got them in, and they weren't talking to me.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't it. And now what am I going to do? So I had to get rid of them before
Yeah.
the bill came.
Yeah.
So there was this thing called eBay, and I just figured, okay, I'll put them up there, and maybe I can make half my money back. And then they both sold for a profit. Then I said, well, wait a second, something's going on here. And that just led to a lot of horse trading and going to shows and just buying inventories out, turning around and selling them, coming up the name Boogie Street. And then in 2003, I either was delusional or I had this ridiculous idea that I know what kids want to play. I can design a guitar that looks this way and kids will buy it. Now, I don't know where that came from, but I tried to sell this idea to Gibson, Fender, Paul Reed Smith, Peavey, a couple other ones, and I got the doors thrown in my face. And the last one on my little white paper list there was Washburn Guitars out of Chicago. It wasn't a company I ever really took seriously as a player. Their product.
Yeah.
I went to talk to the owner of the company. He took it seriously. I gave him some ideas, and we started working. The first projects we had were with Roger Waters of Pink Floyd. He ends up giving me the name of their artist relations guy and these phone numbers. And he's an Austrian. He was talking in this Austrian accent, which I probably will butcher here, but he's like, call these people. If you get them on the phone and you do business, we'll give you exclusivity. Okay. So I just,
Checks out for me.
I just did things, and it just worked. And so we were with Dimebag Darrell for the last couple of months.
What?
Before he split. Yeah, before he went to the Dean, and unfortunately he was killed. And we kind of like made a name for ourselves with our work with Dime initially, and then from there.
I didn't know that. I thought I did
me
some
either.
research, and I mean Paul Stanley's huge. Dimebag Darrell and Pantera, and like it just
that was like our first.
man.
And anyway, we got him when he was leaving
So
Washburn. So I
Yeah,
got him at
yeah.
the very tail end of his career there, and unfortunately he was killed on stage months after that.
right.
But from there, we worked with like the guys from Black Label Society. We worked with Dan Donegan from Disturbed, Nuno Betancourt from Extreme. We did a lot of Washburn signature artists that we would make custom versions of their guitars exclusive to Boogie Street.
Yeah.
And we commissioned them with a better quality. We commissioned them with unique specs.
Yeah.
It just worked. I mean, I just fell in a mud puddle and came up smelling like a rose. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
And then I just made a joke with Rudy. One trip to Chicago in 2005, I would say, hey, you should bring Paul Stanley of Kiss back, because he was with your company at one time.
Yeah.
That's my childhood hero. You imagine how many guitars I would get behind then.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call like 4 or 5 months later, and there was a group call, and Paul was on the phone, and I just was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And that just started an amazing 8-year run there with Paul and Washburn, and just and the Kiss Army and all the Kiss fans, and it was just very blessed.
That's awesome. My first concert I've ever seen was Kiss.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So I went there. It wasn't when they had Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer, I think, at the time. It was probably
That's just who
2013.
they still have, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It was back then, but yeah, it was an awesome show.
You guys are so young.
Yeah, yeah. No, it wasn't before that. Yeah, I was born in '90. But did you
Got
take?
pairs of jeans that old.
Yeah. Did you take photography too for that?
Yeah, photography was a hobby that I always had, and then when digital came, it was fascinating to me because it was like, wow, I mean, I can take a picture, I don't have to get it developed, and if I don't like the picture, I can just get rid of it.
Delete it.
Yeah.
Shoot it again.
As opposed to getting film developed and all that stuff. So when I started Boogie Street, I would take a lot of photos of the guitars we did.
Yeah.
And then naturally, when I started working with Paul, I got, they gave me carte blanche to go to all these shows and shoot behind the scenes in front of the stage. I did a lot of Kiss photography for a 2 or 3 year period there too, and some other bands. But ultimately, the photography end was just a hobby that fit nicely into what I did with the guitar business. But I never, there was always the process of, or the thought of taking that full time. It just never really grabbed me from a commercial.
Yeah.
You know, but it worked out great for the work that I did with the guitars for sure.
Is that something you're still doing?
I take a lot of photos of my family, much probably to my children's. You know, they're all grown now, but much to their, well. They were very spiteful of that when they were little.
Yeah.
I probably have the most photographed children in history. I've got well over 1 million photos in Amazon Photos, Amazon Prime Photos. So all indexed, you know, which is cool. It'll be worth more to my family, hopefully, than my couch will be once I leave this earth. Right?
Yeah.
So, it's a little legacy I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah, for sure. That's so cool that you got to do all of that with all of them. Now back to the kind of the entrepreneur thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can kind of? So you're gonna talk to entrepreneurs in the area and talk to them, or kind of just give advice, or how is that show kind of? What do you expect out of that show?
It's a good question. It's going to evolve, obviously, because one thing I learned about radio, at least the shows I've been involved with, you start out with a premise, and either the show gets cut, or the show gets expanded, or I started out as a real estate talk show host.
Right.
About 4 weeks into that gig, I looked at the producer and said, "Hey, I'm out of material."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a pretty good realtor, but I mean, like, you can only do so much.
Yeah.
So it turned into a variety show, and then all of a sudden, like, the people of Beaver County just kind of grabbed onto it.
Yeah.
I mean, we ran with it for 3 years. In this instance, we have ideas about, we want to eventually bring entrepreneurs and talk about the journey. You know, you can talk about the mechanics of doing LLCs and all that stuff, but we're really there to talk about and hear about individual stories of people who entered the entrepreneurship and either did great or did poorly, and we want to hear about the journeys. We want to share as much information on real life experiences to help people either decide to do it, decide not to do it, or just entertain.
Yeah.
You know, some people love, again, listening to other people's stories and things they do, even if they have no desire to do it themselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, who knows where it's going to go. We're on for 2 hours every Saturday on Beaver County Radio, and it might go to 3 hours, it might go to 1 hour. It depends if they kick us off the air or not.
Yeah.
I don't know, but for right now, I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be able to again, have great conversations in a limited format, of course. But talk to entrepreneurs, talk to people who movers and shakers in Pittsburgh who have really done some really amazing thing, and basically it all comes out of the ideas in their head, right?
Are there any?
Creativity.
Yeah. Are there any like traits that you see in successful entrepreneurs that you see in almost all of them? Is there something that like anybody listening could do that you think would be simple enough that they could factor into their everyday life?
Yeah, I mean the broad concept would be discipline.
Yeah.
If you're a fucking undisciplined person working for Bob,
Yeah.
and you go work for yourself, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
You know, unless you can learn how to change, because if you're undisciplined as a human being, which most of us have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But if you're an undisciplined employee, odds are likely entrepreneurship might not be the right decision for you unless you make some wholesale changes in your life.
Yeah.
So I think discipline's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. That's just from us doing the show. I realized like certain things, like just every week putting something out there, and just I feel like just on a small scale, and I'm sure it works on a bigger scale, just doing something. Like there's so many people that talk about doing things or critique things or say they should do it this way, but they don't actually do anything themselves. Yeah. And I think just the physical act of actually doing something, putting pen to paper, actually physically doing something is just leaps and bounds ahead of what a lot of other people do, just talking about it.
I think half of it, definitely half of it, is actually having the guts to do it.
Yeah.
Taking that idea and actually taking the first step and actually doing it. Disciplines kind of come from that. We're on show 268, and I do all the editing. It's a process. I got to prepare for the show, conduct the show, then go edit the show, launch the show. And I could farm some of that stuff out, but I kind of, at this point, it's a kind of a hobby. I enjoy it.
Right.
But if I don't have structure in my life, I wouldn't get to the real estate. I wouldn't get to the family activities. I wouldn't be able to do those things if I didn't have some kind of structure. And I'm far from perfect.
Yeah.
And I fight my schedule every day.
Yeah.
But without discipline, nothing gets done. And I would just say that, if you want the advice, should you maybe think about going into entrepreneurship? A lot of things to look at, financial being important, but man, personal discipline has got to be at the top.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
And I think there's a lot of people who think they do, and then like at the first sign of
When
like,
push
okay,
comes to
it
shove,
didn't work out this time. I know just from doing this on like on a smaller scale. Like I said, we've been doing this for a year, but like there's certain times where like you don't get the feedback you think you're gonna get, and you have to do it again next week, or just putting out a product and stuff. It can be terrifying if you're not used to it. It's not like everybody has this background and just doing that.
See, so it's an interesting topic. The philosophy of my show is completely different, and I do not even remotely recommend it to any other podcast.
Yeah.
But my show is completely non-commercial.
Mm-hmm.
I have no intentions on taking sponsors. Don't want any sponsors, and I turned them down. Matter of fact, I just recently turned down one that made me kind of shake my head a little bit, but I did it because I just want a certain kind of conversation. I want no one to have their hooks into me.
Right.
I just want to do what I want.
There's a price for freedom.
Yeah, and at this point in my life, I don't need, the Lord's blessed me. I'm in a good position in my life. I don't need to monetize this thing.
Yeah.
But that does give me a whole other element of freedom. And I'm not saying that's the right path for most podcasters. There's a good livelihood in here if it's done right. I believe that. It's just that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Now, the crazy thing about being a rockhead like me and just doing stuff and keep doing it, I look at it like this. If you do something enough, you will naturally become better at it.
Yeah.
You just keep doing it and doing it. Don't worry about how many viewers. If one person's watching, just go back and keep doing it and keep doing it. That's the great thing about America. I'll get off my soapbox in a second. The bottom line is, if you do something well enough and you do it long enough and you do it with quality and you kind of like these little improvements, you get the improvements will come by osmosis, for God's sake.
Yeah.
But if you keep doing it, you will be successul.
Yeah.
The rock band Kiss, right? Greatest example in the world. Not the best musicians. Really weird.
Yeah.
Weird band. And they were weird when they came out. But they kept bludgeoning the American public with that logo, with merchandising, that logo. And all of a sudden now, you might not know one song they sing, but you see that logo, you know that's some crazy rock band with face paint and boots from America. They're very wealthy. You know that if you know nothing else. And so they bludgeoned their selves on the American public. They didn't care about trends. They didn't care about anything. And that, if you take that little lesson into business and you have it in you and you believe in yourself, just do it to the point of nauseousness, and eventually, odds are likely it will work. It may take time, but it will work. The problem is, I don't think the attention span with most humans anymore is that great. Who knows the desire level, but if you really believe in something, how much do you believe in it? Do you believe in it doing it regardless of all the naysayers and all the bullshit? Can you do it for 3 or 4 years?
Right.
Try to make it? And everybody else is telling you no, you're wasting your time. If you have that kind of belief in your vision, eventually you're going to make it. That is the American dream, and it will happen. But you have to gut through the hard times. I don't know if most folks are cut out for that.
I agree. I do think that, like, you do every morning. Like, you might not wake up and want to do it. More often than not, you don't. But, like, just doing it.
It's like exercise.
I think people don't realize how much power they could have if they just, like you said, were disciplined and just did it.
Yeah, and believe me, I'm not the most disciplined person. There's plenty of areas of discipline I need.
I'm not disciplined.
I don't like making my bed in the morning. I don't like getting up at a certain time every day. But
I'm disciplined on Mondays.
Yeah, we all are. We're at the start of the new year. We're very disciplined. First week there. But I mean, like, just exercise in general. It's an important thing. And we know it's an important thing, yet we still would rather lay on the couch and eat Fritos and watch Netflix.
Well, yeah, that's one of those things. Like, for ages, you always hear diet and exercise and just, do that. But it's not sexy. So people want, like, okay, give me the chocolate diet where I eat chocolate for a week and lose 10
pounds. You know what
pounds.
fascinates me, though? It fascinates me. You take a guy like David Goggins, right? You familiar with David Goggins?
I don't.
David Goggins is like an ultra-marathoner, a Navy SEAL.
Okay.
He's huge on social media now. He wrote a book called You Can't Hurt Me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the top best-selling books ever.
Yeah.
David Goggins been on Rogan multiple times. The thing is, this guy is such a workout fanatic, and he is in your face about it, right? He is probably up there, like in probably the top 20 Instagram people on the planet. Look up his numbers, right?
Yeah.
He's so popular, yet most people don't fall. No, they don't do what he says.
No.
I mean, they listen to him.
Yeah.
So all these motivational gurus in our society are real popular, like, you know. But if they were really that popular and people were buying into the stuff, you know, our society would look a lot different.
Well, I think a lot of
nobody does.
I think a lot of people think that they're one way, but it's not the real reality.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, okay, like maybe I think that I do put in all the effort that I do, but am I really at the end of the day like
It's like you convince yourself that you're doing all these things, but
So
you're not.
maybe-
and like you make
Solution.
excuses.
Yeah,
and then-
exactly. Yeah,
And it's like, okay,
for
well,
sure.
Okay.
you see a lot of people who like.
I would agree
this,
with Chris though. I feel like
this
there's
like
a ton of people that do
roadblock
that
is
shit.
enough for me. Like I did this, but I have this mental illness.
But you know what? But
whatever.
that's okay.
And I'm not bashing mental illness.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not a thing.
no, absolutely. But
don't
they
let
use it as-
define you.
yeah,
And
don't
you know,
use it
there's
as
a lot
an
of people
excuse.
that do, and don't
Yeah.
let it, throw you
Hinder
down and
you.
like, it's
Yeah.
not over. It's part of it, but it's not that.
Just
And I think
another
people can
obstacle to
overcome so
overcome,
much,
yeah.
and just. I think people like to make excuses and say, well, I could have done this except for that, but I think it's a fear of success maybe,
We
or
turned it-
whatever.
We turned it into
It's
an art form.
it's so easy
This
to
is
give up.
America is an art form. I mean, it's an art form. There's more excuses
Right.
than there are
No doubt.
than there are reasons to actually do something.
Do you want it, or do you want to say you want
Well,
it so
and
people think you want
I feel like there's so many excuses that you give one to one person, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I get that." You know, they're not like, "Hey, why don't you just like get over that?" They're just like, "Oh."
But I feel like it's
I
unpopular to
understand
call people on shit today, too. Because if you say that, then there's an excuse for, okay, well, their
You're not
dad
wrong.
did this or whatever. Like,
that."
and I'm not like trying to bash it and say that it's not, but like at the end of the day, if you want to do it, you have to do it. You have to do
and
it,
it's not for
regardless of
everybody.
what happens.
Yeah, and like I said, ultimately, whatever you decide to do in your life is your own decision, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, Jim Rohn, a business philosopher, used to say all the time. It was great. He goes, "If you don't want much, you don't have to become much."
Yeah.
And that's not a put down. It's like
Right.
if your wants are simple,
Yeah.
then you really don't need to become much, and you will live a very happy life.
Right.
But if there's more things you want in life, then you need to become more to enable to
Yeah.
achieve them.
Well,
all.
I think that's one of the consumer things that you see from businesses doing. Like, you need this in your life, and people don't realize how little
That's
they
we're
actually
gullible.
do
That's
need.
we're gullible, right?
Yeah.
That's human condition.
Because your neighbor does
We're
this,
all
you don't
guilty.
want to be left out. You don't
We're
want
all
to be
guilty.
the loser who doesn't have the new whatever.
Yeah, we're all guilty in that regard. But
Yeah.
I mean, I just think in the end, it really comes down to: are you happy with your existence?
Yeah.
And obviously, Goggins is so popular. He's got millions and millions of followers. I mean, this is a hardcore runner. Like, he runs like 30, 40, 50 miles a day. His feet
That's
bleed.
insane.
He
Yeah,
lifts
the
weights.
dude's a nut. I've
It's
I've
okay.
seen
And,
his
and
shit.
I feel
he's
like I
so
recognize that name,
popular. And he, he uses a lot of vulgarity, but he really is, people revel about it. And I think he's reaching everybody.
Yeah.
But obviously, very few are actually being inspired by him. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and I find that in The Rock, right? You can always
Yeah.
see him lifting on social media, one of the most famous men in the world, talking about virtue of like good nutrition, all this stuff. But I mean,
I think a
no
lot
one
of
really is
Yeah.
emulating that.
I think a lot of people do see it and they're like, if I wanted to, I would do it. And almost like they say it's a choice, like, but then they choose to never do
And that's
it.
okay if they're
But I
truly
think- but I-
happy. If they're truly happy, but my argument would be,
I don't think they are.
if you were truly happy, you wouldn't be spending time paying attention to David Goggins or The Rock
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're really not.
What do you need
not
to
personal,
know about?
really not that
I think the
entertaining.
truly happy
Entertaining.
people are as far away from social media and all that stuff as possible.
I
Go sit in the
guess.
mountains.
Yeah, no, I
I mean,
like I
that's
said,
for me, but like, yeah.
I just want people to be happy in what they're doing. I think that's the thing. Like, I would love to see more people happy with their state. Whatever state they have, embrace it and be happy. But
you
also
think-
understand that you're in that state, and if you're unhappy, there's a good chance, not 100%, there's a good chance that you're there because you kind of want to be there. Because your actions are leading to that.
Do you think most people want to be happy?
I would hope so.
I would hope so too, but I feel like there's a lot of people who almost find their identity in like being like not happy or like, okay, this is like almost like it's like woe is me kind of thing, and their identity is in that.
Yeah, there was a genre of music back in the early '90s that really, not grunge. There was like Depeche Mode kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They all were dark and black. And I
Like
remember
a
just-
Cure.
I did.
Oh.
But I used to go to like I would go on a date and I'd take this girl to this band like a Depeche Mode, and I went there and everybody's dressed in like white makeup and black outfits, and they're all everything is just depressing. I'm like, what is this? You want to be miserable, Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
But I think I think it really is a choice at like
feel like-
certain point, because like I'll wake up, I'm not happy today, but then it's like, am I trying to make myself happy? Because like
I feel like
it
some
doesn't
people
just
find
happen
comfort
like that.
in being
Like I think
miserable,
people think
you know?
that they should
You think?
just be happy.
I do. I do, and I'll
Okay.
tell you why. Because
Okay.
I definitely found comfort in being miserable for a while, for sure.
goth is what I'm looking for.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Goth music.
I don't know if I was a goth kid, but like,
Well, but to me,
No,
as
it's
an
a-
older person looking at that, going,
Yeah,
wow,
no.
that's a genre of music I don't want any
it
parts
just
of.
it felt comfy, lower expectations. Nobody ever
Yeah, but
like
that's
thought
okay.
anything of
If
you or
that's all
whatever,
you
and you just
want,
kind of got
If that's
overlooked.
all you want, I salute that. If that makes you happy, that's great. I just find it interesting you would say people can be happy being miserable.
I don't know if it's happy.
It's
I don't
not
think that they're
happy,
happy.
it's
They're comfortable
Okay.
being
Okay.
in that, because there are lower expectations, and like people are just like,
Okay.
oh, we don't expect this fucker to do anything at all because they're miserable. You
That's
expect
what my
that.
parents probably said about me growing up.
Oh, that's what my parents said. So, yeah.
I should.
But I don't know. I feel like the just
No,
comfort,
yeah,
comfort
I
in
get it.
certain things.
that's
that's-
the beauty of life, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is different.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's a lot of mysteries and puzzles, and like that whole influencer thing on social media, I laugh my ass off. It's true. Some kid can become a real estate agent and do some kind of social media campaign and then sell like 100 houses in a week.
Yeah.
Could happen. Or kids open presents online, their parents film them, they make a couple $1 million. But the thing is, those are few and far between.
Yeah, there's
And I think-
6
yeah.
people.
And all the other kids are looking at that going, oh, I can go do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a social. I mean, you're going to see social media influencer college courses at some point in time. It's
Oh,
going
for
to happen.
sure.
It's going to happen.
Absurd.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just,
Yeah.
There might be an
shitty.
entire technical college on it or whatever. I'm not kidding. Like the UC
Like
cosmetology,
like
and
art
stuff.
art
Why
institute
wouldn't you
of
have it?
yeah.
If they can
And
sell
social
it,
media.
why wouldn't they?
And
And people will sell it because they'll be sold on the hope that I'll be viral and I'll go, oh, if I do this course, I'll do whatever, and it's the same whatever.
nah, social media to me is fascinating. It's
It's a
so much-
fascinating,
So much of it's an illusion, but it's also a great marketing tool if done right.
Oh yeah, some of the things you see with just like I think it was the social network. Some of just the mental things. It's just creepy almost. The hold that they can have on your mental state.
Well, yeah, I
The way
think
they
it's
set it up.
designed. It's
Oh,
designed
yeah.
in a way to manipulate the way your brain works.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think at some point I read that the people who kind of put the swiping Instagram algorithm together, their background was working with slot machines and understanding how the human reacts to a slot machine and keep
Yeah.
you addicted to that.
Yeah,
that
with
same
addiction,
firm was
you're right,
involved
yeah.
with the whole swiping thing.
Right.
So that's a little deep.
Yeah, so some
Too
of that
deep
stuff.
for me.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things like I don't want to look into, but it's also interesting.
Yeah, it's
It's like yeah.
Yeah, and that's the point of podcasting. Right?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do a deep dive on that next week.
Absolutely. So where can everybody that's listening find your podcast and watch it?
Yeah, we have a Facebook channel as well. We were actually started as a Facebook show. We were never live, but the Eric McKenna Project on Facebook is a big hub for us. But my new website just launched. It's ericmckenna.com. My realtor practice is there. Some Boogie Street history is there as well. And then the show links are there. But on the audio version, we're everywhere: Spotify, Google, Apple, Spreaker. All
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah.
But we also have a YouTube channel. I don't pay any attention to it, but all of our shows are also indexed on YouTube as well too. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody definitely check through all that.
please.
And we definitely. I mean, we're not done yet. I have a couple other questions.
Here we go.
The most important of
famous
which,
question.
the most
yeah.
important of which,
The famous
and
question.
it's important, and I'll tell you in a second why.
Sure.
We're gonna ask you about your least favorite movie character, and the reason why it's extra important is because next week is our 1 year. It's our
right
1
on.
year.
Right on.
But your answer will be the 30-second entrance into our least favorite movie character, which is a perfect number for a bracket. So going forward, after your answer,
Goggins.
we have up on that. So for the rest of April, we're gonna have it up on Instagram and Facebook or whatever.
Right.
You'll be able to vote on least favorite movie characters. But we're interested, Eric, to hear what you have to say for your least favorite movie character.
You want it right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't really watch movies that often. I'm not a big movie buff. If I hear about a good movie, I'll go out and do it. But I don't follow characters like the John Wick character.
Yeah.
Maybe Bond, but I dig Bond, so he could be at least.
Who's your favorite Bond before we get into it?
I see. I'm a Daniel Craig guy.
I am too.
Oh no shit.
I think he does a good job.
I like Pierce
Good
Brosnan,
answer.
man. Pierce Brosnan was that when I was growing up, my dad had all the Bond movies.
Pierce Brosnan's the George Clooney of Batman.
He's the first Bond I ever saw. He is my Bond.
Yeah.
He is my
the
Bond.
right age.
I
saying.
grew up,
Robert Moore.
by the time
Roger
I grew up,
No.
it was the 70s. Roger Moore had pretty much just grabbed it at that point off of Sean Connery.
Yeah,
I think there was one guy that came in.
I think there's an obscure guy.
Yeah, no, there is. He's another blonde guy.
Somebody or
Yeah,
something like that.
I think he had like a movie. Or like,
Yeah,
or maybe
who was the
two.
guy who did the TV show Remington Steele? He did it for a while.
I don't know.
Not Pierce Brosnan. What was that name? He was pretty weak.
I just remember Roger Moore, Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Sean Connery's my dude. I like him too.
Timothy Dalton. Did
Oh yeah.
The guy that did Remington Steele television show,
Yeah.
he was on for a couple too. But Daniel Craig to me has just got this.
He does have
He's
the
got,
thing.
got a swagger
He's
about
got
it,
the thing.
and he doesn't speak a lot. There's not a lot
Yeah.
of speaking parts to that.
Yeah. He looks like he could do the physical stuff more than I would believe Sean
I
Connery.
think he's really
or
a
something.
short guy. Someone say
Oh,
he's
is
like
he?
5'4" or something.
Oh really?
You never see that.
Chris,
in
that's-
a movie. I
Chris,
think-
bring him in here.
Don't
Yeah.
quote me. Don't quote me.
Chris, that's like
I
your
know.
size.
Yeah, Remington Steele was the TV show that this one guy. He did it for, what was his name? Sean Connery, Roger Moore.
So yeah, you have the Bond list up, Cheech.
George
Yeah.
somebody was
George Lazenby.
Yeah,
Lazenby.
he did one.
How many Roger Moore movies are there? There's a
Timothy
ton.
Dalton,
Pierce
Pierce Brosnan, Daniel
Oh,
Craig.
so maybe it was Pierce Brosnan was Remington Steele.
I didn't realize Roger Moore did so many Bond movies.
And he was just, Roger Moore's the Bond that I knew as a kid. And he
Yeah.
was just like a wet towel. He had no personality.
Yeah.
But he always got the girl. He had to like that.
Well, that was a Bond thing. Yeah.
So anyways, I don't know if I really despise characters, but the more I thought about this, like, what characters really always just annoyed the shit out of me? And I think C-3PO.
It's amazing how many Star Wars answers we've gotten.
Yeah, I mean, like, you hear that thing talk, and it's like he's always whining and bitching. and the little R2's got no hands to smack him.
Yeah.
He can smack him or nothing. He's just always bitching and moaning.
What an answer. I love
He's
that.
afraid of everything.
Yeah, he's a
He
little
is.
fucking. He's a little pussy.
I mean, how
man.
did he make
Little
it
scary
through
cat.
all those movies and survive? And he was afraid of everything.
He reminds me of the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz in
God,
Star Wars.
yes.
Yeah,
That's a
he
pretty
probably
good
ranks up there as
comparison.
annoying,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But the Scarecrow, at least, he had a little panache to him.
I don't know, the
that
Scarecrow
cowardly
was-
lion
yeah.
was kind of like, that was kind of bad.
You know who the real villain in The Wizard of Oz is the title character, is the Wizard of Oz. Because he's a liar the whole time. First off, he tells them to go get the Wicked Witch's broom so he can tell to give him a brain and a heart and the nerve and all that shit. So he tells them that. And then he says, go kill the Wicked Witch, which is like pretty much an impossible task. According to him, he thinks he's like, all right, I don't have to worry about these four because they're gonna for sure die from the Wicked Witch and the Flying Monkeys. To his surprise, they beat the Wicked Witch with the water, and all the Flying Monkeys were like, for sure, she sucked, man. Here you go. And then they come back, and then he's like, oh shit, you're alive. I don't have any of that. Here's a diploma and a watch heart and a pennant, and hopefully you. He's a liar the whole time.
Shit.
How long is that been? How long have I been talking?
I didn't know that you felt this passionate. He's
a liar.
Close for a while, and this has never come up. This is a new. Oh my god.
But like, watch it again and see that, and they go like Dorothy's whole hope to coming back. Her whole world's been turned upside down. She just killed a witch, and she thinks some other witch is coming at her, and all this is going on. You're telling me to reel it in?
I'm trying to reel you back in.
The whole thing wasn't the whole thing a dream?
It was. But
then why were you
I'm glad you
talking
brought it
about
up.
It wasn't even real.
But before the dream, the wizard was there because he was in the carriage with the crystal ball where he was a con artist. Watch it again. He has Dorothy come in. While she closes her eyes, he reaches in her basket, pulls out a picture of Annie M, says, "Oh, shouldn't you be going back?" She goes back, gets her head bludgeoned, passes out, and then has this dream. The Wizard of Oz and whoever the guy is, he's the real enemy. Thank you.
All I remember was there's little guys that were the lollipop kids, right? We represent the lollipop kids. That was they were the stars of the show.
Yeah, they had that at the beginning of the Yellow Brick Road, which is strange because there's also a red brick road that curves into it.
How many times have you watched this?
I've seen it. I saw it a couple months ago. I get really passionate about that.
He's got.
I have a good memory for things that don't bother other people. There's like 7 things that bother me about that.
Right.
So if you know movies that well, can you explain to me The Matrix?
I don't know The Matrix very well. I don't know Donnie Darko. If anyone's watched that, I've made an effort.
Parallel universes or parallel realities is not your cup of tea.
But the thing with that, it's like, well, you should have read this like side thing that nobody really knows about, so you understand why Frank the Rabbit's there. Like, I have no idea. Why do I have to know about the mailbox and like the director's cut?
Yeah.
Just make the movie make sense.
I heard that, man. Yeah.
I don't know.
Very good. Very good.
Any other? Yeah, no, I don't know.
Any other questions, Chris?
I like the movie. I feel like they're trying to be too artsy. I don't know.
You said you had some questions about the Sex Pistols.
Yes.
I did because I saw. I'm glad you reeled me back.
We go from
I've been trying.
We go from The Wizard of Oz to Johnny Rotten.
Yeah.
Like that.
Are you more of a Glenn Matlock or a Sid Vicious guy?
Matlock.
Yeah. Well, because he could play it, right?
He's musical.
Yeah.
I don't really like a lot of them except for Rotten.
Yeah.
Rotten's the only one I really
Are you a fan of Public Image Limited?
Some.
Yeah.
Some of it. Yeah, I lived that era, and I really, at that time, didn't no idea what half that shit was. But once in a while, there was some nugget in there.
Yeah.
And as I got older, that eclectic stuff kind of grew on me.
Yeah. That was one thing. If you ever will see Eric's studio, the Boogie Street and all this stuff in his podcast area, he has some Johnny Rotten pictures and some Sex Pistols stuff. And I'm a big fan of the Sex Pistols. I always love
That one
their
album.
Yeah. Hey, they nailed it. Yeah. And that might be best for them, like long wise, because I don't know that they would have been a band to have put together 4 or 5 good albums.
The great thing about that band is, to me, is what most people miss, I think, and that is that if you listen to that record, there is nothing. Now the image is different, but if you listen to the record, there's nothing quote unquote punk about that. That is a bludgeoning hard rock / metal record with a very unusual vocalist.
Yeah.
But there's nothing punk.
It's funny.
It's polished.
Yeah.
It's very well produced.
It is. And the way you were saying that, I was just watching something a couple days ago, and Johnny Rotten was saying how it's not like, like the Ramones or someone with a beat, like a tempo that's super fast. They're like slower, but it's just so much passion and like
a lot of
intensity.
Anger, a lot of anger, intensity, yeah. And like I said, they only had one record in them. They were done. There was nothing could come after that. And Rotten took a different path to the little new age kind of alt, whatever that stuff was.
Right.
But which is weird. But yeah, that one they needed. I find it fascinating that they're one of the few bands that have one record that is in that ridiculous thing in Cleveland, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What that means, but they're actually they tried to induct them. But he wrote a decent.
I've seen it.
Rotten wrote a letter and basically told them to go fuck off.
I don't know what's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's just a music hall of fame. Well, they should just call it that, right?
I don't know how something that started out as a rebellious form of expression for teenagers.
Yeah.
Which was the idea was supposed to be anti-establishment. All of a sudden became now an establishment thing where bands of that era fight amongst each other and there's wars because they can't get in.
Yeah.
It's like it's taking the whole purpose of rock and roll and kind of throwing it away.
Yeah.
You know, that's just me.
No, I agree.
All my bands are old and practically dead now, so
Yeah.
my bands from my era are on their last legs.
Yeah. But no, I absolutely love this. Are you a fan of like the Clash and a lot of the other punk
No, I
bands?
was not a punk rock kid.
No?
I just thought there was something really interesting, and I kind of missed the Pistols really because at that time they were around. I was 10, 11.
Oh, yeah.
And I came from a very Catholic,
Yeah.
you know, and then there was the song "Bodies" came out,
Right.
you know, and they started talking about
Abortion,
That wasn't gonna happen in the McKenna household. But as
Pretty
time,
vague, huh?
as time,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of-
as time went on, I just like the way that Rotten lives his life in a very unvarnished way, and he just speaks the truth all the time, and doesn't care about offending people, which most of us could never live that way.
Yeah.
You know, we just couldn't do that. He had the means to do it, and frankly, I don't think he cares. So that fascinates me. He's just unvarnished truth all the time. Doesn't
Is that a
put
good
white
thing
lie.
or a bad thing? What do we think?
I don't know how he's managed to survive all these years living that way.
Because like I feel like I respect that, but I don't think I would like it.
It's just not
like
for
if it was my
everybody,
neighbor.
man, yeah.
Like I respect the hell out of honesty all the time, but if you were there, I don't think I'd like you.
So that's perfect way to describe it. And
Yeah.
conversely, if you search Getty Images or you search Google
Yeah.
for pictures of Johnny Rotten with any other celebrities, you will only find a very small handful of celebrities that were ever around him and had their photos taken with him.
Yeah.
Because most people either were afraid of him,
Yeah.
intimidated by him, or despised him. So, whereas if you were to search, like, you know, this rock star with these three rock
Right,
stars,
right,
there's
right.
thousands of
Yeah.
photographs. There
On
were
a red carpet,
there were
on
very
wherever,
few.
yeah,
You'll
yeah.
find pictures. There's a picture of Brad Pitt and him, and there's a picture like, you know, Lemmy from Motorhead. But
Right,
you won't
right.
find a lot of actors or actresses or celebrity types with him, and that's one of the reasons I think he lived that unvarnished thing and probably pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah. I also don't think he has a lot of respect for people like that. And probably in that.
I think you have to earn his
Yeah,
respect.
yeah.
You know, not that you know people care to, but in his
Right.
world, it's really insulary. You know?
Well, I think celebrities at a certain stature, like they expect almost like.
He's like the anti-celebrity.
Yeah. Right.
But here he's made it to like almost 70 years old, and he's still kind of somewhat a thing.
Yeah.
You know, which is fascinating to me that not to basically don't care if you rub everybody the wrong way. I don't care if I make money or not. I'm just going to be myself. And he found a way to make a career out of that.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's why I think it interests me so much. It's so unvarnished, and all of us can't live that way.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we probably would like to.
Yeah.
But it's probably not socially acceptable. You
Well,
would get
yeah.
fired.
I think that's an
your-
outlier.
Your significant other will leave you.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
The police will put you in jail. I mean, there's certain things you have to do. There's certain subtle societal niceties you have to do, or you're not going to make it through the day.
Yeah, no, that sounds good, like, from the outsider, I think, for, like, the idea of it, but, like, the day-to-day, like you're saying, like, you get a parking ticket, you don't give a shit what they say, like, people
Well, I imagine
don't
like,
that,
relationships gotta be
right,
bad,
relationships
you know?
have to be bad.
I mean, your wife comes, you
Do
say,
I look
"Oh,
fat in
do I look
this?"
fat in this
Yeah,
dress?"
yeah.
And, do you like this dress? And he's like, "No, it
Well-
looks bloody terrible."
Yeah.
You know, you're not
Can't
gonna.
you say
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I can just see where that could cause some problems.
Yeah,
yes.
there's certain times, you
Yeah,
know.
but Johnny's something. My goal is before I end this podcast, when Pill comes back to the States, I'm going to do my damnedest to get him down there for a.
That would be
sit-down.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
try. I got a couple angles to play. If it happens, it happens.
It
If
never
doesn't, it
hurts to
doesn't.
try. That's one thing I'm realizing. You know, always, you know,
You gotta have the
put in
guts
the
to
work
try.
and offer.
You got to have the guts to try.
Yeah.
Half the crap that's happened to me in my life that I look back and say, "Wow, that's awesome," would never have happened if some crazy idea didn't float in my brain and I was crazy enough to just try it.
Right.
Regardless of who laughed or joked or told me I was nuts.
Yeah.
You know, because if I listened to other people my entire life, if I had taken those folks' advice instead of doing what I would want, my life would have been unremarkable, uninteresting, extremely boring, and I probably would be, you know, sweeping the floor of a subway
Right.
right now. Really.
Yeah.
If I had done what other people thought I should be doing, and instead of what I believed, and you know, and in turn, I've been extremely lucky, blessed with an amazing family. I got a ton of life experiences, a comfortable amount of money where I'm not, you know, hurting, So I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I think that happens simply by having the balls to do what I want to do, regardless of what somebody else will tell me. And again, you want to have a basis. Don't go out. Don't go and throw the middle finger to a judge or nothing. I'm not saying do any of that. Work.
You heard it here
work
first. Eric
within-
McKenna said, "Flip off the judge."
Work within society.
First one you see.
Yeah, but believe in yourself enough.
Just walk straight into a courtroom.
Yeah, there you
Even if you weren't there, just go in.
have the courage to do your
Yeah.
That's all. And you guys are living proof that you have that. You're here doing this.
Thank you.
This is
Yeah.
something you just
Appreciate
wake up one day and decide, I want to do this afternoon and give it a shot.
Yeah.
There's planning, execution, and that's what I'm saying. This is the doers in life are doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the people building and creating stuff. Not talking about it. It's talking and doing two different things. You can be a creative person with no balls to take action.
Right.
And to me, you're worthless.
Yeah.
You can have very little creativity, but the balls to take even a simple idea and run with it.
Right.
I have more respect for that person.
Absolutely. I'm
Than the uber
100%.
creative
Back
person.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I will say, just in the small amount that we've been doing this, something hit me a year ago, and I was like, you know what? Stop talking about it and do it. Just do
Absolutely.
it, and just do things.
What's the
and
worst gonna happen?
Right.
Really, what is the worst?
It's like the thing when you're 15 years old. Should I ask the girl again? Oh no, it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Or she says fucking no,
Yeah.
and you move on.
Right.
But in that moment, you're like, no,
It's
no,
like
that's
the end of the world, yeah.
And then you realize, you just pick yourself up and you get back up and you're stronger
Mm-hmm.
for it. And then you just go fucking nail it the next time or whatever. Or you don't, and then you get stronger from it, but learn something from it. I think.
Yeah, I think we all believe too that we're way more important than we really are.
Oh, yeah,
Meaning
for
that
sure.
Everybody's gonna be laughing at us. The world's gonna laugh at me. I'm gonna feel the repercussions of my bad
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
And people are gonna make fun of me. The reality is, no one gives a shit.
That's 100%.
Everybody's so
Everybody is
concerned
so
about
self. Yeah, they're
themselves.
so
Yeah, man,
self-centric. That
shit.
you're a little fodder.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. But you don't learn that until you're older.
It's like when you're in school and you're I have to give the report today, and I'm so afraid of what's going to happen when you go up. But when your classmate was up, did you give a shit what he said? No, you were focused on your stuff. You're always focused on you, and you think it's the end of the world. Whatever you do is, it's either the greatest or the worst, and it doesn't work that way.
And we learn
I
these
agree.
lessons when we're young, yet we forget them when we hit early adulthood.
Yeah.
It takes decades to go through before you start realizing, that life really, no one really is paying that close attention to you. You're not that important.
Right.
No doubt.
Yeah, for good or bad.
Yeah.
But Eric, thank you so much. Once
great
again,
Thanks, man.
check out Eric's podcast. Check him out on Beaver County Radio on Saturday mornings, right?
EricMcKenna.com. It's all there.
Okay,
The
there you
website
go.
looks great, by the way. I was
Thank you.
all over it.
Yeah, I'm
over
pretty
it.
proud of it. The Boogie Street content
beforehand.
is slowly being put in there. I
Yeah.
got tons I got thousands of photographs and stories. We'll get that in all over time. We also are going to relaunch the swag. We sold a ton of Boogie Street stuff, and we're going to do that with $5 of every sale going to St. Jude's Hospital.
Hell yeah.
Do it
Awesome, man.
completely 100% in conjunction with St. Jude. So we're going to launch out here tomorrow.